Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, Chapter number 21, titled Conversation between Manu and Kardama. Text number 29. Yata atma britam viryam. Yata atma britam viryam. Navada prasavisyati. Navada prasavisyati. Virye tvadiye rishaya. Virye tvadiye rishaya. Adhasyanti anjasatmanaha. Adhasyanti anjasatmanaha. Yatatma britam viryam. Navada prasavisyati. Virye tvadiye rishaya. Adhasyanti anjasatmanaha. Yatatma britam viryam. Navada prasavisyati. Adhasyanti anjasatmanaha. Mataji's. Yatatma britam viryam. Navada prasavisyati. Virye tvadiye rishaya. Adhasyanti anjasatmanaha. Word for word translation. Ya, she. Te, by you. Atma britam, sown in her. Viryam, the seed. Navada, 9 daughters. Prasavisyati, will bring forth. Virye tvadiye, in the daughters begotten by you. Rishaya, the sages. Adhasyanti, will beget. Anjasa, in total. Atmanaha, children. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: she will bring forth 9 daughters from the seed sown in her by you. And through the daughters you beget, the sages will duly beget children. So, in these current verses we're hearing these words from Vishnu. These are slokas that Vishnu is saying to Kardama Muni. So Kardama Muni, he was ordered by his superior, Lord Brahma, to beget children and to help him, assist him in populating the universe. And Kardama Muni, as we're reading, he then does tapasya for 10,000 years. Then he gets the darshan of Lord Vishnu. He recites a series of beautiful prayers at the lotus feet of Vishnu. Then he puts forward his desire that I've been ordered by my authority to beget children. Can you please bless me so I would get a suitable wife to assist me in this process? And then Vishnu tells Kardama Muni that don't worry, even before you started doing tapasya, even before you started praying to me, I already started making arrangements to fulfill your desires. I am seated within your heart and I know exactly what desires my devotees are having. So even before you started praying to me, I already knew what your desire was. And before you started praying to me, I already started making arrangements for a suitable girl for your marriage through whom you can fulfill the instruction given to you by Lord Brahma. And Vishnu, he gives further details. He is saying that very soon Swayambhu Manu, he will very soon come to you, and he will very soon give your daughter in marriage to you. And Vishnu explains to Kadamuni that this daughter of Swayambhu Manu, her name is Devahuti, and she's very well qualified. Her nature matches your nature, and you'll be a suitable match. In this way, you can go about performing your household duties. And in this verse, Vishnu is further telling him that through her you will beget 9 daughters. And these 9 daughters that you beget from Devahuti will later on be given in charity to great sages. And then through the womb of these 9 daughters, great sages, they will produce more children. And this way the universe will be populated. In this way you will fulfill the order given to you by Lord Brahma. So in this way Vishnu is very nicely explaining everything to Kadama Muni in regards to what is going to happen very soon. And Vishnu will also tell him that not only will he have 9 daughters, but he will also have 1 son. And this son would be no ordinary son. This son will be Lord Kapila Dev himself. And Lord Kapila Dev, he is an avatar of the Lord. He is the Supreme Personality Godhead himself. So I remember some time ago, Ghanshyam Prabhu, he was giving a class on this section, and he was talking about the fortunate position of Mother Devahuti. So if you look at Mother Devahuti, who is her father? Her father is Swayambhu Manu. And Swayambhu Manu, he is no ordinary Manu. He is one of the 12 Mahajans. Right, there's 12 Mahajans. In the 12 Mahajans, we have Yamaraj, Prahlad Maharaj, Bhishma Dev, Lord Shiva, Sukadev Goswami, 4 Kumaras, Janaka Maharaj. So in this list of 12 exalted persons whom we're all supposed to follow, Swayambhu Manu, his name is also given there in terms of the 12 devotees that we're supposed to follow. So Swayambhu Manu is Devahuti's father. So on one side, she has a Mahajan as her father, Swayambhu Manu. On the other side, who is Devahuti's husband? It is none other than Kadama Muni. And Kadama Muni, he's a pure devotee of the Lord. He's also no ordinary personality. He's also no ordinary personality. We'll read in this section, Bhagavatam explains that when Kadama Muni was doing tapasya for 10,000 years, Vishnu, he was so pleased, he was so moved by Kadama Muni's devotional service, by his tapasya. He was feeling so much gratitude that tears started coming out of Vishnu's eyes when he was thinking about his devotee's devotional service. Just like if someone undergoes a lot of hardship and austerities to satisfy us, to do something for us, then when we come to find out, we become very emotional that, wow, this person, this devotee, he underwent so much trouble, so much austerity just to, satisfy me, just to do something nice for me. And naturally we will feel very grateful, naturally we will feel very emotional, and out of gratitude, tears will start coming from eyes. So the exact same thing happened to Vishnu. This was the potency of Kadama Muni's devotional service. He was doing his devotional service with so much determination, so much love and devotion to the Supreme Lord, that the Supreme Lord was feeling so much gratitude, was feeling so emotional by his devotee service, that Vishnu, he started shedding tears. And these tears that came from the lotus face of Vishnu, it created a beautiful transcendental lake known as Bindu Sarovar. So even today we can go and visit this holy place of pilgrimage. So Prabhupada explains that Krishna's body is absolute, which means the function that one particular part of the body does can be done by any other part of the body. Which means Krishna, he can see through his ears, he can see through his mouth, he can see through his hand. So every part of Krishna's body is absolute, and they can perform the function of others. And Prabhupada explains, just like the Ganga, she is glorified throughout the 3 worlds, and everyone goes and takes bath in the Ganga to purify themselves. Why? Because the Ganga is coming from Krishna's lotus feet. So because the water of the Ganga has touched Krishna's lotus feet, it has become supremely pure, it has become supremely transcendental. In the same way, because water is coming from Vishnu's eyes, that is also supremely pure, that is also supremely transcendental and supremely purifying. And just like the water coming from Krishna's lotus feet as the Ganga can purify us, in the same way the water coming from Krishna's eyes as Bindu Sarovar can also purify us. And there is no difference, Prabhupada explains. And Prabhupada also says this Bhagavad Gita is also coming from Krishna's mouth. So just like the Ganga can purify us because it's coming from Krishna's feet, in the same way the Bhagavad Gita, which is emanating from Krishna's mouth, can also purify us. So this was the power of Kardama Muni's devotional service. He did service with such intensity that Vishnu started crying out of gratitude. So again, Kardama Muni is no ordinary devotee, and this is the husband of Devahuti. So on one side, her father is Swayambhu Manu, one of the 12 Mahajans. On the other side, next to her, her husband is Kardama Muni, a pure devotee of the Lord. And then on the other side, her son is none other than Lord Kapiladev, who is the avatar of Krishna, of Vishnu. So if you look in all three sides, she has three most exalted personalities all around her, all surrounding her. A Mahajan as a father, a pure devotee of the Lord as a husband, and an avatar of the Lord as a son. So she is the most fortunate lady, you can imagine. No one else can be as fortunate as her. Prabhupada explains when a girl is unmarried, she is supposed to be taken care of her father, by her father. And then after she gets married, she is supposed to be taken care by her husband. And then when the husband, he takes vanaprastha, when the husband, he takes sannyas and goes off to do spiritual activities full time, then the lady, she is put under the care of the elderly son. So in this way, Prabhupada explains, these three personalities, the father, the husband, and the eldest son. These three personalities, they take turns in taking care of that particular Mataji. So these are three persons who will take care of a woman in Vedic culture. And in all three sides, for Mother Devahuti, she had exalted persons taking care of her. She had a Mahajan as a father, pure devotee as a husband, and an avatar of the Lord as a son. So this is her position. But we'll see in the next coming chapters, after Kardama Muni, he leaves her. Then Mother Devahuti, she comes and submits herself at the lotus feet of her son, Lord Kapiladev, who is the avatar of Krishna. And how does she introduce herself? Although her background is so exalted, although she's a princess, she's the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, and she's coming from such great background, when it comes to her submitting herself at the lotus feet of her son, the way she introduces herself is that, my dear Lord, I am blind, I'm completely blinded by ignorance, I've just wasted my life. You are my transcendental eyes, without you I have no vision. I have wasted my life in the deep dark well of mature existence. You please give me instructions by which I can perfect my life. So such humility Devahuti shows. Although from all angles she is considered as such an exalted lady. But from her perspective, she's just thinking, I've just wasted my life in sense gratification. From her perspective, she's thinking that I am fallen, I don't know anything, I am just blind, and you are my transcendental eyes. Like this, she addresses her spiritual master, who is her son. So that same mood we should also have, that actually we're all blind, and Srila Prabhupada is our transcendental eyes. If it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada, if it wasn't for the instructions of our spiritual masters, we wouldn't have vision, we wouldn't have eyes to see what is actually going on. We're just walking in darkness. So that is the position of the spiritual master. Like we sing, Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurulmitam Yena Tasmei Shri Guruve Namaha. That I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master has given transcendental eyes. So this is the position of all the great devotees of the Lord. They're always very, very humble. And even though there might be so much cause of pride, still they never become proud. Still they always maintain a very humble position. For Mother Devahuti's scenario, she had every reason to be very proud. and puffed up. She has such a great exalted father, she's a princess, she has such a great exalted husband and exalted son. So she has so many reasons to be proud. But still, despite having all of these different things, she is still presenting herself very humbly. I'm fallen, I'm ignorant, I don't know anything, I have wasted my life, you please instruct me. So this is the way Mahaprabhu explains we are supposed to attract the mercy of Krishna. We're supposed to approach the Supreme Lord in a very humble attitude. And this humble attitude we'll see through Mother Devahuti in the coming chapters. And if we study throughout the whole Bhagavatam, all the great devotees mentioned here will all exemplify this quality of humility. Like in 11th canto, we have Vasudeva, who is the father of Krishna. So again, such a great position Vasudeva has. He is the father of the Supreme Personality Godhead himself. So there is nothing greater than that. He has already achieved the topmost position. But when Narad Muni comes to Dwarka to visit Vasudeva in his palace, how does Vasudeva address himself? He falls down at the lotus feet of Narad Muni, offers dandavats, washes his lotus feet, sprinkles the ma water on his head, and he addresses Narad Muni that, my dear Narad Muni, I am foolish, I am just a householder, I don't know anything, I'm attached to mature life. Please give me instructions by which I can do better devotional service to Krishna. You're a great devotee of the Lord, you please instruct me how I can improve my devotional service. So even though Vasudeva, he's none other than the father of the Supreme Personality Godhead, he's still thinking, I'm not doing good enough devotional service. He's still thinking that actually I have so much more room for improvement in my devotional service. And he's very humbly asking Narad Muni, please tell me, instruct me, how I can improve my service to Krishna. So in this way, the Prabhupada explains, the Acharyas explains, from this humble mood of Vasudeva, we should learn that as devotees, we should never think that our service is good enough. But it is the nature of, if we're actually Vaishnavas, we're actually devotees, we should always think that actually my service is always imperfect. And Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, although my service is imperfect, he is still accepting that service out of his causeless mercy. The Acharyas explain that through this example of Vasudeva, Krishna's father, we should understand that this should always be the mood of all devotees of the Lord. A devotee of the Lord, he never thinks that, okay, I'm doing good service. This service I just did now, okay, I did a good job. No, rather a devotee always thinks that, okay, I tried my best, but still the service I did is imperfect. Still there is so much more room for improvement. There is so much more progress I need to make to offer pleasing service for Krishna's senses. If we maintain that mood, we'll always be humble, we'll never become proud. And if we maintain that mood, we can always take feedback from other devotees. Otherwise, if we're thinking our service is perfect, we're not doing anything wrong, then when another devotee comes and gives us feedback, that Prabhu, okay, you cleaned the temple nicely, but that corner, you missed a spot, there's still some dust, can you please wipe that area? Then we'll be offended. Who is this person to tell me I didn't do a good job? Whatever I do is perfect, I'm a pure devotee, I never do any mistake. Who is he to tell me that I didn't clean this part of the temple nicely? So if we're proud, if we're thinking we're doing good service, then we won't be able to take feedback from other devotees. And if we can't take feedback from other devotees, we can never improve. We'll always stay where we are. And the other devotees who are humble and who can take feedback from other devotees, they will continue to improve more and more and more. And they will advance more and more and more, and they will continue to do better and better devotional service for Krishna. That's why taking feedback in bhakti is very important for our spiritual progress. Because other devotees, senior devotees, they can notice areas where we're going wrong, or they can notice areas where we can make improvement, where we ourselves can't see. Because Prabhupada explains, the nature of the mind is such, the mind will always tell us that we are the best devotee. And that is the nature of our rascal minds. The mind is always very arrogant, very proud, and the mind will always tell us that we're doing everything perfect. The mind will always tell us that whatever we're doing is perfect, we're not doing anything wrong. That's why we need other devotees around us, whom we trust, whom we can rely on to give us feedback in areas where we can improve, in areas where we can do better devotional service. But if we're proud, if we're arrogant, if we think we're doing everything nicely, then that feedback will just come through one year and go out through the other year. And we won't apply that feedback in our lives, and we won't make any improvement. We'll continue staying at the bottom where we are for the rest of our lives. So therefore, having a humble attitude in bhakti is so important. Because unless one is humble, he can never make improvement. Because he'll just think, I'm doing everything perfect. So he'll just stay in level 1. He'll never go to level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. But if someone is humble, thinking, yes, I need to make more improvement, I need to do better service, then naturally he'll look around and other devotees doing nice service, and he'll pick up different points. Oh, this devotee who's doing like this, nicely, I'm not doing like him, let me also apply that in my life. And that way I can do better service. This devotee, I'm noticing he's doing this like this. This is very nice, let me also apply it in my life. Okay, this Prabhu said, I can improve my service in this way. What he's saying makes sense, let me apply it in my life. So in this way, the devotee who is humble, who is able to take feedback, he can go to level 2, he can go to level 3, level 4. This way he can keep on progressing higher and higher and higher. So those who are proud, they'll always stay in rock bottom. They will never progress. Those who are humble, they will continue going higher and higher. They will continue doing better and better devotional service. So this attitude of humility, we are going to see through the example of Mother Devahuti coming soon, when she starts asking questions at the lotus feet of her son. Generally, the mother or the parents, they always think themselves, the natural person, the parents are always superior to the children, right? And the natural tendencies of the parents is to always give instructions to the children. And the children are supposed to hear the instructions of the parents. You'll never come across a situation where the children will instruct their parents. If that happens, if the children are instructing their parents, then generally the parents will get a bit offended. Who is this? He is my son. I have brought him up. I have taught him how to walk. I have taught him how to speak. So much effort I've spent on this person. Who is he to instruct me? So generally, if the children, they instruct the parents would get a little offended. Who is he to instruct us? Who does he think he is? We have so many more years of advancement. We only taught him everything. How can he give instructions to us? But again, you look at Mother Devahuti's situation. Although she's coming from such a great exalted background, she's bowing down at the lotus feet of her son and very humbly taking instructions from her own son. So again, from this example of Mother Devahuti, we'll see this Vaishnava quality of humility very nicely being exemplified. Okay, there's no purport for this verse. We'll go to the next text. Text number 30. Tvam cha samyak anustaya nidesam usattamaha mai tirti kritasesa kriyartho mam prapatsyase. Translation, with your heart cleansed by properly carrying out my command, resigning to me the fruits of all your acts, you will finally attain to me. So this is Vishnu further speaking to Kadama Muni. So generally, it is seen that when one gets into householder life, it is risky in the sense one might get entangled too much in it and go backward in his spiritual life. So that fear could have also been there in the mind of Kadama Muni, because he was just a renowned sage doing tapasya. Now he's been ordered to get married and beget children. So that fear could have been there in Kadama Muni's mind. Oh no, now I'm going to get married. I hope I don't fall down into Maya. I hope I don't get carried away. And Vishnu, again, he's in our hearts. He knows exactly what's going in our hearts. So Vishnu, he is pacifying Kadama Muni and telling him, don't worry, you won't fall into Maya. Don't worry, you just act according to my instructions. You do your household duties according to my instructions. Nothing will affect you. In fact, as long as you remember me, do your activities for my pleasure, Maya won't be able to touch you. And in the end, you will finally attain to me. In the end, you'll finally come back home, back to Godhead. You'll come back to Vaikuntha. So in this way, Vishnu, he's pacifying Kadama Muni. That don't worry, although you're going to go into the household ashram, because you're doing everything for my pleasure, the illusory energy of the Lord won't touch you. You will stay aloof, and in the end, you will come back to him. This way, Vishnu is very nicely pacifying, giving assurance, giving confidence to his devotee, Kadama Muni. Okay, we'll read the purport. Here the words Tirthi, Krita, Sesa, Kriyartha are significant. Tirtha means a sanctified place where charity is given. People used to go to places of pilgrimage and give munificently in charity. This system is still current. So in the sloka, the word Tirthi Krita Sesa is being used. And Prabhupada is taking out that verse and explaining how Tirtha means a sanctified place where charity is given. And Prabhupada is saying it is a Vedic custom that whenever a person, he goes to a place of pilgrimage, he is supposed to give in charity. This is one of the duties of a pilgrim when he goes on pilgrimage. So we can discuss a bit about this principle of charity. So charity is one of those things that Krishna very elaborately discusses in the Bhagavad Gita. And in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says that, austerity, penance, and giving in charity, all of these different things, Krishna says, one should always do, no matter what one's material situation is. These different things such as performing austerity, penance, giving in charity must always be performed at all times, places, and circumstances. And Krishna says these things purify even a great advanced yogi, they purify even a great saint. Which means it's not that charity should only be given when we're in brahmachari or, grahastha ashram, but later on when we become, sannyasis, holding danda, then we don't have to give in charity. Krishna says at any stage of life, these three things should never be given up. Austerity, penance, and charity. No matter where we are in life, even though we might be in the top of the Vedic social system, even though we might be a sannyasi, the head of the society, still, Krishna says, still the sannyasi should do austerity, he should do penance, and he should still give charity. Because Krishna says these three things, they purify even great exalted souls. So no time, place, and circumstance, we should think that we don't have responsibility to give in charity. And this is part of a Brahmanas, not only is it part of a Kshatriya's duty, generally when we think of charity, we think of Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas, they're big exalted kings, leaders, they have so much wealth. And we hear of Kshatriyas giving in charity to Brahmanas and people in society. But actually, charity is not only a duty of Kshatriyas, but charity is also duty of Brahmanas. So Brahmana has 6 different duties: Yajan, Patan, Dana, Pratigraha. So Brahmana's 6 duties are, he is supposed to study the Shastras and he is supposed to teach the Shastras to others. So that's 2. Another 2, he is supposed to do deity worship and he is supposed to teach others how to do deity worship. So that's 4. And the last 2 is, he is supposed to accept things in charity from others. And lastly, he is supposed to give in charity to others also. So not only should a Brahmana accept charity, but a Brahmana's, one of the 6 duties of Brahmana is to also give in charity. In traditional Vedic system, it's given, in Vedic culture, during the day, a Brahmana will receive many gifts from different persons. So in a village, different persons will come. To get the blessings of the Brahmana, they'll give different items in charity. Someone will give a bag of rice, someone will give some dal, someone will give some vegetables, fruits, someone will give some yogurt, someone will give some milk. And at the end of the day, a Brahmana will have more than what he requires for his family. So what would the Brahmana do? Whatever things he has collected during the day through charity, he would again give in charity before the sun sets. And he would only keep the bare minimum just to sustain himself for that day. So this is the traditional example that Brahmanas used to follow. They would collect things in charity during the day. At the end of the day, before sunset, whatever things they collected, they would again distribute in charity and only keep a little bit, just enough to fill their belly, just enough to sustain the family for that particular day. And the next day, they will wake up again as a beggar, as a poor Brahmana with nothing. Then again, they would get things in charity. They would just keep what is necessary for themselves. Then again, they would just distribute in charity whatever else they had. So this principle of charity was very much prevalent through Vedic culture, not just through Kshatriyas, but through Brahmanas, through Vaishyas, in all the different castes in the Vedic Varnashrama system. Even Vaishyas, they used to give in charity, just like Nanda Maharaj. He's a Vaishya, and in the Varnashrama system, when Krishna was born, we read in Krishna book, he gave so many cows in charity to the Brahmanas. To his servants, he was giving jewelry and different things to different persons, based on their stature in the social order. So no matter where a person is situated in a Varnashrama system, it is the duty of all persons in Vedic culture to always give in charity. And I heard this one point in a class by Mahavishnu Maharaj. He says that there is 3 things we should always be satisfied with, and there is 3 things a devotee should never be satisfied with. So what is the 3 things a devotee should always be satisfied with? One is, he says, the first thing one should always be satisfied with is one's spouse or one's partner in marriage. Number 2, he says, is money. Whatever money we're getting, by whatever job we're doing, we should just be satisfied with that. We shouldn't over-endeavor to get more money. In this way, compromise on our spiritual life. My Guru Maharaj says that different devotees, different people, they have different karma. So based on different devotees' karma, different amount of Lakshmi will come in their lives. So we, as devotees, we should never compare ourselves with other devotees, thinking that, this particular devotee, he's getting so much money. Look at me, I'm not getting so much money. Why is that so? Krishna, why you're giving this devotee more money and not giving me this much money? So my Guru Maharaj says we should never compare Lakshmi amongst devotees. And my Guru Maharaj says that this is not an indication of one's bhakti. It's not that a particular devotee who's getting more money, he is more advanced, he is pleasing Krishna more. My Guru Maharaj says the Lakshmi that devotees get in their lives is just simply based on their karma. We all have different karmic baggages coming from our previous lives. So based on our karma from previous lives, we're entitled to a certain amount of money or wealth coming to us. And my Guru Maharaj says, if there is something we should compare between families, between other devotees, we should compare the bhakti that different devotees have. We shouldn't compare the money, that this devotee, he has more money, this devotee has an extra car, he has a bigger house. That's all just karma. That's all just coming from different devotees' karma. So that's not something that we should be looking at. Instead, my Guru Maharaj says, what we should be comparing amongst ourselves and other devotees is the bhakti that other devotees have. They just see how devoted this devotee is to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. Although he lives so far away, 1 hour away, 1.5 hours away, still every week, twice he comes from Mangala Arti, driving 1.5 hours in the morning. How early must he be waking up? He must have to wake up at 2:30 in the morning, take shower, get ready by 3, and then drive to the temple to be on time. Just see this devotion of this particular Prabhu Amadiji. He's been doing the same service for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, non-stop, without a stop. So this is something that we should be comparing. This is something that we should look at other devotees and take out. Not how much money they have, how many cars they have, how big their house is. This isn't the indication of Krishna's favor. This is simply based on karma. We all have different karmas. So based on different karmas we have, we're entitled to a certain amount of money or material opulence coming our way. So my Guru Maharaj says this is not something that we should compare amongst devotees. Rather, we should see the bhakti that other devotees have, take inspiration from that and try and apply that in our lives. Okay, so the first thing we should always be satisfied with is our spouse. Number 2, money. Whatever money comes of its own accord, we should just be satisfied with that. We shouldn't over-endeavor, taking a second job, third job, fourth job, and just compromising on our spiritual life. That's not good. Number 3, he says, is food. Whatever food that comes our way, we should just be satisfied. Okay, today there is simple plain khichdi. Okay, let us enjoy khichdi. Tomorrow there is upma. Okay, let us enjoy upma. Day after there is pizza. Okay, let's enjoy pizza. Whatever prasad, devotees serve us, whatever prasad Prem Sagar Prabhu cooks for us, we just be satisfied with that. We shouldn't complain thinking, why today this, why, yesterday's prasad was better. No. According to Maharaj, whatever food comes our way, we should always be satisfied. Accepts the prasad as actually prasad. Prasad means mercy of the Lord. So we should actually see prasad as prasad, which means this is the mercy of the Lord. Although it might not be something to my liking, I will gratefully accept it as the mercy of the Lord. So these three things one should always be satisfied with, which is one's spouse, one's money which has in his life, and the food, whatever food or prasad that comes on his plate. One should always be satisfied, one should never be dissatisfied. If we follow these three things, Maharaj says, we'll always be happy, we'll always be peaceful in life. And the moment where we'll be frustrated and unpeaceful, unhappy in life is when we're dissatisfied with one of these three things. So if we think about it, contemplate on a bit, we can understand. So these are three things we should always be satisfied with. And three things we should never be satisfied with. Number one, Maharaj says, we should never be satisfied with our japa. We should always think, I need to do better quality japa. We should always think, I need to be more attentive in my hearing and chanting. Hare Krishna. And the second thing Maharaj says we should never be satisfied with is our study of the Shastras, Swajaya. A devotee should never think, I have studied enough. Rather, he should always think, there is so much more for me to study. There is so much more books for me to read. There is so much more slokas to read, memorize. There is so much more realizations I need to get by reading Prabhupada's books. So devotee should never be satisfied with his study of the Shastras. And number three is charity. A devotee should never think, I have given enough charity, which is what Prabhupada is talking about here in this purport at the start. So charity is also given as one of those things that, as Krishna explains in Gita, we should never give up. No matter what our situation is, even though we might be a sannyasi or brahmana, still one is supposed to give charity. And that charity which a sannyasi gives, that charity will purify even a sannyasi, Krishna says in Gita. And Maharaj explains, at no point, time and circumstance should we as devotees think we have given enough charity. We should always continue giving more and more charity. An ideal example of this given in Bhagavatam is that of Lord Ramachandra. So if you look into the 9th canto of Bhagavatam, a very beautiful summary of the entire Ramayana is given in 9th canto of Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami, he summarizes the whole Ramayana in 1 or 2 chapters in 9th canto of Bhagavatam. So in that chapter in 9th canto, it's explained, after Lord Ramachandra, he kills Ravana, he comes back to Ayodhya. When he comes back to Ayodhya after so many years of exile in the forest, all the citizens, they're so happy and jubilant to finally have their king back, Lord Ramachandra. And immediately Lord Ramachandra, he starts performing different sacrifices, different yagnas. Because that is the duty, what the sloka, Tretayam Yajatomake, that the particular means of self-realization in Treta Yuga is fire sacrifice, doing yagnas. So Lord Ramachandra, after he comes back, he's reinstated as king, immediately he starts doing many fire sacrifices, yagnas. And it is the principle of sacrifice, it's given, Krishna says in Gita, if one does sacrifice, but at the end of the sacrifice, if he doesn't give in charity to others, then that is sacrifice in the mode of ignorance. And that sacrifice is not proper. So the principle of any sacrifice is, whenever we do any homa, any sacrifice, we're supposed to give in charity at the end. If we don't give in charity after a particular sacrifice, then we won't get the benefit of that sacrifice. And Krishna says in Gita, if someone does a particular yagna, someone does a particular sacrifice, but at the end of the sacrifice doesn't give in charity to the brahmanas or the priests, then that is sacrifice in the mode of ignorance. Everything else might be perfect, everything else might be pakka, but if you don't give in charity at the end of the sacrifice, that sacrifice is a fail, that sacrifice is sacrifice in the mode of ignorance. So Lord Ramachandra, after coming back to Ayodhya, he was doing numerous sacrifices. And naturally, at the end of these sacrifices, he is supposed to give in charity to the brahmanas, to the priests, and whoever else was participating in that particular sacrifice. And Sukadeva Goswami explains that Lord Ramachandra, he used to love the Brahmanas so much that he gave so much in charity that he completely exhausted his entire treasury. Whatever amount of wealth was stored in the kingdom of Ayodhya, he gave every single dollar, he gave every single penny in charity to the Brahmanas. Whatever garments, jewelry he was wearing on his body, he gave even that in charity to Brahmanas. All he was left with was his clothes. That's the only thing he was left with. He gave so much in charity, he became just like a beggar. Sukadeva Goswami explains. Not only him, even Mother Sita. Whatever possessions she had, she also fully gave in charity to the Brahmanas. So much so, Sukadeva Goswami explains, all Mother Sita had left was one nose ring. That's the only jewelry she had left. All the other, you can imagine, she's the queen of Ayodhya. How much jewelry must she be wearing? How much wealth, dresses and so on, ornaments she must have had in her palace. She gave away everything in charity to the Brahmanas. So much so, Sukadeva Goswami explains that Mother Sita, who is the goddess of fortune, all she had left was one nose ring. That's the only piece of jewelry she had left. So this is how magnanimous Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita were in giving charity. As Maryada Purushottam, Lord Ramachandra, he leads by example, showing how is it a particular ruler or Kshatriya or leader is supposed to give in charity. Very selflessly, Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita, every single thing they had in possession, they just give in charity to the Brahmanas. Then what do the Brahmanas do? The Brahmanas, when they see Lord Ramachandra just completely giving every single cent he has in charity to them, the Brahmanas, they are so moved by emotion that, my God, the Supreme Lord and his consort, the goddess of fortune, they love us so much. They've given every single thing they had in charity to us. How much the Supreme Lord loves us. And the Brahmanas, they were so moved, they became so emotional, they were crying, out of gratitude, thinking how much the Supreme Lord loves them. And then what do the Brahmanas do? They come, offer themselves at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, and the Brahmanas, they submit themselves to Lord Ramachandra, and they explain that, my dear Lord, thank you for all this charity you've given, but the greatest charity you have given us is that you have already entered within our hearts. And by the transcendental torch of knowledge, you have dissipated the darkness within our hearts. This, my dear Lord, is the greatest charity. And we are simply satisfied by this charity. We don't need anything else. You please take back all this wealth. So Lord Ramachandra, from his side, whatever he had in his possession, he gives in charity to the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas from their side, they gracefully accept the charity, but then again, they give in charity everything back to Lord Ramachandra. Whatever Lord Ramachandra gave in charity to Brahmanas, the Brahmana again, they accept it, then again they give back to Lord Ramachandra, saying that, thank you for this charity, but we're simply satisfied with having you within our hearts. You coming within our hearts and you dissipating the dense darkness of ignorance in our hearts is itself the greatest charity. We don't need anything else. We're fully satisfied. You please take all of this back. So this scene in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam gives the ideal example of charity in Vedic culture. A king from his side who should be willing to give everything in charity to the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas on their side, they should simply be satisfied with being devotees of the Lord. They should simply be satisfied with having Krishna within their hearts. They should simply be satisfied in doing their bhajan. And whatever charity they get in excess, they should re-give in charity back. So this is the ideal scene of charity we see in 9th canto of Bhagavatam. So in this way, the importance of charity is highlighted throughout the Bhagavad Gita and also Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures. We will continue on the purport. People used to go to places of pilgrimage and give munificently in charity. So when we give in charity, Prabhupada explains, we make a lot of spiritual advancement, we make a lot of benefit. Prabhupada explains that when a grahastha or householder, when he gives some money or some of his possessions in charity to sadhus, that charity purifies his wealth, that charity purifies his house, that charity purifies his occupation. That is the reason why grahastas or householders, they supposed to give in charity to sadhus. Because in the course of their material duties, in the course of their occupation, in earning wealth, they're bound to commit certain amount of sins. And they're supposed to get certain amount of sinful reactions in the course of working and engaging with the mature energy. But when they give a portion of that wealth in charity to a sadhu, by the power of that charity, whatever wealth a grahasta has, whatever wealth householders has, that wealth gets immediately purified. So that is why, according to Shastra, a householder is supposed to give in charity. And Prabhupada in 2nd canto Bhagavatam, he explains that there is different reciprocations given by Krishna based on whom we give charity to. For example, Prabhupada explains in 2nd canto, if we give in charity to a non-Brahmana, someone who is not a devotee, then whatever amount we give in charity, we will get back in return in equal proportion in the next life. So say we gave, $100 to a non-Brahmana, to a non-devotee in this life. Then in our next life, we will get the same amount back. When we take birth in our next life, we'll get the same $100 back. So that is one scenario. Second scenario Prabhupada gives is if we give in charity to a person who is a half-educated Brahmana. So someone who is not a full Brahmana, but is a half-educated Brahmana. Then whatever we give in charity, we will get back in double. Which means if we give a half-educated Brahmana $100, in our next life we will get $200 back. So that is second scenario. Third scenario is a fully qualified Brahmana. If we give in charity to a fully qualified Brahmana, then whatever amount we gave to him will come back to us either 100 times or 1,000 times in our next life. So if we give $100, it will be 100 times 100 or 100 times 1,000. Will come back to us in our next life. So that is third scenario. Fourth scenario, Prabhupada says, is if we give in charity to a Vaishnava, to a devotee of the Lord who is fully surrendered at the lotus feet of Krishna. Prabhupada says, if you give something in charity to a devotee, that amount will be multiplied by an infinite number and will come back to you in unlimited multiplication in the next life, which means you won't just get material reciprocation, but you will get immense spiritual credits, which, you can't calculate based on money. So in this way, based on whom we get charity to, we will get different reciprocation coming in our lives. In order to sanctify your activities and the results of your actions, you will offer everything unto me. And this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, the result should be given to me only. In another place in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord said, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices, all penances, and everything done for the welfare of mankind or society. All activities, therefore, whether for the welfare of family, society, country, or humanity at large, must be performed in Krishna consciousness. That is the instruction given by the Lord to Kardama Muni. Maharaj Yudhishthira welcomed Narad Muni. Wherever you are present, that place becomes sanctified, because the Lord Himself is always seated in your heart. Similarly, if we act in Krishna consciousness, under the direction of the Lord and His representative, then everything is sanctified. This is the indication given to Kardama Muni, who acted on it and therefore received the most excellent wife and child, as will be disclosed in later verses. So lastly, Prabhupada is quoting from Bhagavad Gita how whatever we do, whatever sacrifice we do, whatever penance we do, we should do it for the pleasure of Krishna. That famous verse, Yat karosi yadasnasi yat juhosi dadasiyat yat tapasyasi yakonteya tat kurusam adarpanam. And Prabhupada is quoting another verse from Maharaj Yudhishthira when he welcomes Narad Muni. So Maharaj Yudhishthira is telling Narad Muni that wherever you are present, that place becomes immediately sanctified, because the Lord Himself is always seated in your heart. So Prabhupada explains that devotees of the Lord, they are like moving temples of Vishnu. So this 180 Falcon Street, this is a stationary temple of Krishna. But Prabhupada explains that pure devotees of the Lord, they are two-legged temples of Vishnu. They are moving temples of Vishnu. They are like portable, motionary temples of Vishnu. And just like whenever anyone comes to this temple, they get purified. They come, take darshan, offer obeisances, take darshan of Radha Gopinath. By the spiritual association of Radha Gopinath, they get purified of all their sins and they advance in their spiritual life. In the same way, because pure devotees of the Lord, they are also like moving temples of Vishnu. Anyone who comes in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord, they will have the same effect on that person. That person will also get purified of their sins. That person will also advance spiritually. Just like when someone comes to a temple, he makes advancement. In the same way, whenever a person comes in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord, because that pure devotee is like a moving temple of Vishnu, he will also get purified. And just like this temple is the holy place of pilgrimage, why? Because Shri Radha Gopinath are residing here. In the same way, Prabhupada is explaining, just like Shri Radha Gopinath are residing in 180 Falcon Street, and that's why 180 Falcon Street is non-different from Vrindavan. In the same way, Prabhupada is explaining, Radha Gopinath are also residing in the hearts of their pure devotees. So just like 180 Falcon Street has become Vrindavan, in the same way, the hearts of all pure devotees of Lord, because Shri Radha Gopinath are residing there, the hearts of these pure devotees has also become like Vrindavan. So that's why anyone who comes in contact with these devotees, they get purified. So like that, Prabhupada, he finishes off today's purport. We'll stop here. Nantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.